Now we have 20 episodes which were not as bad as the 15 I choose for my bad ranking, but they are also not as good as the 50 episodes I have chosen as my personal favorites from Revenge. First I will talk about what I like and not like in these episodes, and it fits I will talk about which ideas I have for improvement. Since the second season was the worst, you will see more episodes from season 3 and 4 in this list. And if you miss episodes from the first season, I have to admit that the whole season 1 went on the good episode list. So let's start with my least favorite episode of this list, episode 11 from season 4. Epitaph was a quick choice since I like the whole stuff around Daniel's funeral and that they really take the time to make us feel Victoria's and Emily's loss. Daniel was never my favorite, but he really grew fond of me with this tribute episode and his redemption arc in the episode before. But what I really hated was this conflict with Margot and how Victoria used the sympathy she gained for losing her son in such a terrible way.
I'm going to make it my life's journey to see you pay for what you've done. And that journey begins now. We bury Daniel on Friday. You will not be there.
You can't do that, Margot.
No, but she can.
You know that Daniel would have wanted me at his funeral.
Maybe. But we'll never know, will we?
I get that Margot is blaming Emily because she does not know better at the time. But Victoria is really deflecting her guilt here. It was her who gave Kate Emily's picture and sent her after Amanda. I mean, she only could have told Malcolm Black who Emily really was to make this worse. Then having the audacity to blame Emily that her son Daniel had to save her after everything she had set in motion. I cannot believe that she is doing this with a straight face.
Daniel spent his last minutes on this earth, saving your life, and yet you were the whole reason he died.
You know who killed him.
And again I had really strong feelings about David, but no good ones. How he is handling the whole Malcolm Black threat and Victoria's grief. It really feels cruel how he is behaving here.
If I stay in this house, I'm going to lose my mind. Anywhere but here!
This thing's gonna happen when the first person asks you about Daniel.
I won't be a prisoner to your lies anymore.
I was a prisoner for 2 decades because of yours. You can hold on one more day.
Were you this cruel 20 years ago and I just missed it?
I mean, even Emily, who hates Victoria that much, shows compassion for her. Before I get too upset about David and his character change, let's move on to season 3. Many episodes of this season are still my favorites from Revenge. But we had some filler episodes before the big finale that were not that much thrilling. For example, the new target Luke Gilliam, Victoria's backstory, how she got pregnant with Patrick, and Aidan's backstory with his father who did not commit suicide but was murdered. Let us begin with the episode titled Blood. I must admit I was not a big fan of how they depicted Aidan's backstory with his sister Colleen in season 2. Instead of giving us a great flashback of the abduction or showing us his grown-up sister, they just showed us this short video with her dying from an overdose over and over again. So I was thrilled getting to see Aidan's mother and hearing more about his father's connection to the David Clarke conspiracy. Only to find out that they sent us again on an useless quest, only to find out that Aidan's father was not a coward like Aidan said and did not kill himself.
They'd free your sister if he planted that bomb. Your father had no idea what he planted on that plane. They told him it was diamonds. When we met, he carried so much shame. Having to hide that from you and your mother consumed him. He was desperate to make things right.
Then why kill himself?
I'm sorry. Your father was murdered. And the second I gave Pascal that story, I knew I'd made a mistake. And so I called your dad, and I told him to collect everything he could and to meet me, but he never showed. And when I heard about that suicide, I knew Pascal had staged that whole thing. He killed your father.
I still cannot decide if I just give no damn about this fact or if I am deceived that they changed this storyline only to make Pascal a murderer and create a connection to Aidan. The episode was not that bad. We had these neat little details like going to London to see his mother and a bit of a reconciliation. But I am sure if they had focused more on his father getting blackmailed and the abduction of his sister instead of how his father died, this could have been a great episode. Sure, it was bad for Aidan and his mother that his father killed himself. 'Cause it looked a lot like a confession. Which was surely the point here. Yet is it really that important if the outcome is the same? His beloved father died when his family needed him the most. And they lost both Trevor and Colleen because of the Graysons and their conspirators. Thrilling but also a bit dull was that they brought Mason back again.
I want to renegotiate. I had a visitor laughed about a certain juvie girl.
TikTok goes to Clark.
Funny they found in every season a way to sneak him in some episodes in. Anyway, in season 1 and 2 it was far more organic. Because after hearing about Daniel's arrest and Kara Clarke's return to the Hamptons, clearly Mason could not resist to find out more and get stuff for a new book perhaps. But after Emily convinced him to take the fall for the murder of Gordon Murphy and he was imprisoned, he fulfilled no real purpose in this episode but to stir up trouble for Emily. Okay, his little dance with Victoria and the inside jokes were fun.
I can't help but notice her ties to one thing in particular.
I can't imagine what.
Did Emily's name ever come up in your research?
I was very interested in Emily at one point.
But who really believed that he would give away Emily's secret so easily? I mean, until season 4 it really seemed to me that he was fond of her and tried to make up for his betrayal of little Amanda all those years ago. But as I said, this typical scheme of a filler episode was not the best episode for Mason. Yet worse was the next one called Allegiance with Emily's new target Luke Gilliam.
His name was Luke Gilliam. He was Grayson Global's biggest earner. Rumor was he illegally manipulated energy markets, which Conrad used to inflate profits. He has evidence about Flight 197, and I'm going to get it from him.
After Father Paul, who was really one of the stronger targets of the entire show. Mr. Gilliam was some kind of a vanilla target. A bit like a repetition of investment crook Bill Harmon with an updated bio. In fact, I wish they ditched this one cause it felt even more as a filler episode than the ones before with Aiden's backstory. It would have been way cooler if they had combined this episode with bringing Takeda back. That would have given the writers the opportunity to explore Aiden's backstory and his attachment to Emily far better. I mean, they brought Nico back and allured to Aiden having his own missions and trying to save his sister. I still think we never did quite get the full story here. If they had made a 2 or 3 episode arc of Takeda's exit off the show, his death would have had far more impact. And in retrospect, we did not actually need a new target. I mean, since season 2 with all this initiative mess, we were quite comfortable with not having this regular scheme. And if we are honest, after Tyler's and Formunder's appearance on the show, this structure was already almost left behind. By the way, it is annoying that they shamelessly used references to Gazprom and fracking, which were trending topics at the time.
So this is your new target?
Yes, Luke Gilliam. He runs a clean gas company, but it's a sham. The chemicals he uses are toxic. They get into the water, poison the ground.
Let me guess. His wells don't end up in towns like the Hamptons.
These people don't have the means to fight back. This guy has been untouchable. He has evidence of Conrad's role in the bombing.
Even worse, they made it very much inconsistent this time. I mean, I still do not know if Emily ever got to know that Luke was a scam of Victoria and his whole information was bogus.
Happy hunting.
Well, I wasn't expecting to see you here, Victoria.
Oh, I can only hope it comes as a terrible disappointment to you.
Yes, it was a nice twist that Victoria is trying to outsmart Emily in her own game. And seeing Jack helping Emily since Nolan and Aiden are occupied elsewhere was fun.
You're full of crap. I got family that lives near one of your wells. The ground is poisoned. People can't drink the water. How do you live with yourself?
Those were the 2 things that worked in this episode. Especially since we are so near the finale, we had to see Victoria closing in and someone finally connecting the dots. They allured to this far too long. In fact, since the opening of season 3 with Jack warning Emily.
Once the Graysons start connecting dots, because they know what Amanda Clarke was trying to do to them, they just killed the wrong girl.
Yeah, you're right.
Again, a reason why half seasons might have worked better for revenge. The pace was never quite that good again as in the first season. Even in the 3rd season we had too much filler episodes and episodes that stood for itself with no real connection to the rest of the plot. Like this one with Luke Gilliam. The only connection to the episodes before and after is Pascal and his attempts to help Victoria get rid of Emily.
None with your access.
That's funny. Seeing as your new partner was married to him for over 20 years. Tell Victoria nice try.
Unfortunately, this can also be said for the not quite as good episode Payback with Patrick's issues. And he has a lot going on under the surface. Again, a character who was not treated well by the writers. I was never quite on board with that soapy return of the long-lost son at the beginning of this season. But they had me intrigued with the mystery behind his biological father. Since we saw a pregnant teenage Vicky giving up her baby in season 2, I wondered who the father was. I mean, it could not have been one of her paramours we have met before. Because they all did not know that Victoria had a teenage pregnancy. I first assumed it had to do with the abuse from one of her mother's lovers who also seemed to have been a pedophile. Yet the writers had chosen another story. And I must admit I still do not buy it.
He kisses me, and I say no, we're just friends. And I try to pull away, and he has this look on his face like a monster.
Anyway, this episode's story looks very much designed. I like what they are doing here with exemplifying how bad Victoria's influence on her children is again. I mean, she already turned Charlotte and Daniel into these horrible persons with much personal damage and insecurities. Now she is doing the same to Patrick, who is much more unstable. Yet again, the execution of this was not that good. Like the scene when she meets Patrick's father again and tells her son the sob story afterwards. I really would like to believe her cause Victoria's fear and terror still looks genuine for me. But I was immediately thrown back to her scene with Daniel in season 1 when she told him about Charlotte and that David Clarke was her father. She was so afraid of Daniel's reaction that she made him believe David forced himself onto her.
Oh, we all have secrets, Daniel.
Who's Charlotte's father?
David Clarke. All I wanted was to protect Charlotte from the truth. That's all I wanted.
What did he do to you, Mom?
Please, I can't talk about this. I can't.
Oh my God. Oh my God, Mom, come here.
I'm sorry, baby. I'm sorry.
God, Mom, I'm so sorry.
Okay, she gives us this very detailed and elaborate story about her rape here. But that is also the problem. Something feels off here, and I am still not sure if they intended this to be or if it's just another plot hole they did not care enough for.
All I could do was focus on the pilot light underneath the water heater and wait for him to be done.
Anyway, I must admit I enjoyed the dynamic between Madeline Stowe and Justin Hartley in this episode. Even though it might sound sick, but I really enjoyed how Patrick is dragged into the darkness here. He is the only one of her men besides Conrad, of course, who actually was willing to kill for her. I know this was an accident and he just wanted to protect her cause. He believed, of course, her story about the rape. But still, he had the chance to save his father's life with one phone call and decided not to. He is a grown-up man. He could have called anyway after Victoria was occupied with threatening his father. But that was only the side plot of this episode. The main plot with Emily's blackouts and Nico trying to kill Aiden was even more insane. And would have been a reason for me to put it to the bad episodes. Especially because of this cheap trick making us believe Emily could have had an affair with her father-in-law.
Oh, good. You're awake. You were marvelous last night, Mrs. Grayson. Until our next rendezvous.
I mean, yeah, she is reckless during her blackouts, but I cannot believe that she would sleep with the man who was responsible for the imprisonment and death of her father. By the way, a couple episodes ago she still wanted to get Daniel back. I do not think sleeping with his father would get her any credits for that. The only great decision they made in this episode was bringing Stevie Grayson, Conrad's first wife, onto the battlefield.
I'm the first, Mrs. Grayson.
Well, you know what they say. Nothing beats the original.
I think so too.
She was one of my personal favorites from season 3 and 4. Another thing I enjoyed was the fashion. I think they found the right dose of beautiful dresses and casual luxury clothes for Emily in season 3. In this season they really show her as the socialite she was meant to be from the beginning. I mean, they already changed her wardrobe to more bold colors in the previous season. But in private and everyday clothes she still wears her signature look with earthy and beige tones. Either way, her clothes always look very expensive and high-class fashion. Speaking of fashion, season 2 and especially this episode was not as good. Engagement was a bit too on the nose with Emily's country chic and all these black colors. And I hate her dress for the engagement party. This silver metallic sleeveless dress and the stole did not look good on her. Maybe that was the intention, to show off that she is a social climber. There are many things I hate about this second engagement episode. But let's start with the good. Teasing Victoria with the renewed plan to carry Daniel off to Paris.
How repetitious. Well, I can only hope that you opt for a very long engagement this time.
Actually, quite the opposite. In 2 weeks, Daniel and I take off to Paris.
That's where we're planning to live.
It was just hilarious. Aiden confronting Takeda was nice, too. Yet Aiden shows us again how fucking Brion he is in taking the wrong choice. Instead of talking this through with Emily, he walks into this trap Takeda built for him. Cause he seemed very much confident that Aiden would be lying on the floor after their fight, not himself. Another reason why I preferred they had made a 2 or 3 episode arc of this. Imagine how cool these episodes could have been with the first Takeda and his intriguing performance. What a waste. And I must admit that this fighting scene was nothing less than annoying for me. I mean, how could this exit of such an important figure in Amanda's life be that unspectacular? How dull and uninspired these episodes are written shows us when Aiden tries one episode later to make us feel Emily's loss by telling us how much Takeda meant to her.
Because I knew how much he meant to you. I knew how much you felt you owed him. I felt that you would have felt obliged to have taken his mantle on your own.
Why not show us? They gave us only this one short flashback to teenage Amanda and Takeda in season 2. By the way, not one of the good flashbacks. Anyway, why not focus on Aiden's relationship with Takeda in the episodes before? Instead of bringing us back to London and his mother, they could have shown us how Aiden became Takeda's student. That was something I was thrilled to know since he came into the show last season. I mean, he obviously was a student of Takeda's for years and like Emily got to know his daughter Nico. So there had to be a closer relationship here, and Aiden must have felt betrayed by Takeda, too. But we see nothing of this in these couple of episodes. And they just abandon this storyline after Emily finds out what Aiden did. She just leaves and they never speak about Takeda again. Just like they did with Padma when she died. And do not let me get started about this ridiculous sword fight here. They overdo this Japanese samurai thing here. Unless Nico did not come up in the next season. By the way, another lost opportunity for a character that could have been cool if she had just more screen time to develop a real backstory here. We would have never talked about Takeda's death again.
Studying my father's autopsy for the first time.
I think the killer stole it, and I will hunt him to the ends of the earth.
Through this must have been a great trauma for Emily, losing her biggest mentor and having to see her mission through alone. Not that she did not broke with him first and he left her alone for most of the time of her mission. But since he sent Aiden to look after her and came back himself when he saw things are going not quite well, he still was there as backup in the background. By the way, I hated this scene with Emily when he just bluntly, almost like a little child, refuses to help her. I assume he just does not know how and is too proud to admit before his student. Because in this season he really looks not that smart and intimidating as he did before. I wonder if that was intended or if they just screwed this up with the recast of his character.
No, this path is mine alone.
Another thing, how much did this scene hurt? I mean, you can see how painful it is for Emily not telling Jack here the truth. I know they probably already planned the big cliffhanger in the finale here. But this scene could have really improved and would have been much more fulfilling if Emily could have told him the truth and her plan right here, right now.
You're really gonna marry Daniel?
I am.
I was married to Amanda, and you were supposed to be her best friend. How could you agree to marry into a family that we both know ruined her life?
I wish I could explain it to you, and someday I will.
Now we have 2 episodes from season 4. Besides some exceptions, most of the episodes from the beginning of the last season will be on this list. As I said in my bad episode rankings video, watching the first episodes of season 4 was very much frustrating. Waiting episode after episode for Emily to finally contact and reveal herself to David. The writers always found a way to keep the two apart. And not all episodes had that thrilling or even entertaining side plots to keep us invested. Like this episode, Repercussions. Louise's obsession with Victoria and trying to get close to Daniel was just so dull. A faint echo and repetition of Emily's pursues. As I said before, I really dislike how they portray Louise in the first couple of episodes. Even though Emily and Nolan exonerate her because she has been drugged by her family. It leaves a bit of a taste, showing her that much crazy and obsessive.
I'm sorry, Miss Ellis, but Mrs. Grayson declined.
This was a stupid idea.
The gesture was lovely.
Yeah, a glass from a $20,000 bottle of Shams is more than lovely, dear. Well, who needs champagne?
It was fun, no question, how Daniel tries to avoid the sexual attraction between the two. And it speaks not that much for his character that he feels the need to respond to Louise's flirting. Just for the sake of keeping her happy as his new employer. I also did not enjoy the side plot about the threat against David. I am still confused about this guy from the cabin. First I thought it was a red herring by Victoria and they just made a mistake with the transition from the last season.
What makes you think Emily is gonna follow the lead?
Because what else would a doting daughter do?
If the threat is real in season 4, then how could Victoria know about this and set up that trap for Emily? I always wondered how she got David's ring, who must have been handed over to his daughter Amanda, or at least Nolan, who also got the Infinity Box. Anyway, if these henchmen were sent by Malcolm Black, what did he try to gain here? Why did he not threaten or kidnap Victoria and Charlotte, who were obviously close to David? And how conveniently was it that he did not figure out that David killed Conrad and Emily was stalking David, too? There are many plot holes in this part of the story. Good was this episode anyhow. 'Cause the main plot was Victoria and Charlotte working together to keep David and Emily separated. Though Charlotte slightly begins to doubt that this was the best way to care for David. I really loved Emily's confrontations with Victoria, Charlotte and Margot.
Oh, I get it. So you want me to pave the way for your triumphant return. I think I'll pass.
Are you sure you want to side with your mother on this? She is manipulating him. God, Charlotte, she took him to what was supposed to be my grave. Do you know how painful that must have been for him? We have to stop her.
How she is lashing out here was just great.
I expect better from you.
What, you truly believe others out there are not doing the same?
And that makes it right? I am fighting for Amanda Clarke. She wanted her father's name cleared and her enemies brought to justice, but what she didn't want was for him to be used by people like you.
You should learn to govern your emotions, Emily.
This is such an unflattering color on you.
In her conversations with Victoria, we have some of my favorite quotes from this season.
I will not destroy the memory of his child. You may have that honor, if you truly are that cruel.
You want to talk cruel, Victoria? How about ripping a child away from her father? Or bribing a doctor into poisoning every good memory she ever had of him? That is the truth that you're running from.
Or am I to be the next victim in your growing body count?
Oh, that I could live with.
But could your father? Have you ever considered what will happen when you tell him about all your lies or the death you caused in his name?
You know what I see? It's just a frightened woman about to lose the last person she could ever trick into loving her. To his daughter.
And I love the hotel location. The lobby is just so cool. Another episode with good and bad parts is Intel. Like many of the episodes in the last season, there are some great moments in this episode. But the overall structure leaves a sour taste. Though I hated Ben's courtship to Emily, I really enjoyed how the date went from pretty good to pretty bad. And how Emily is showing of her skills. The date scene stands for itself, and it tells us a lot about season 4 that these scenes felt so out of touch and not at all fitting for revenge. It really felt like some romantic comedy.
8-ball, corner pocket.
Mercy.
I don't believe in mercy.
Me too. Something tells me that this isn't a date.
Ben.
You know what? I'm gonna take care of the bar tab.
Yet I enjoyed Emily's encounter with Daniel before her date with Ben. This honest conversation between the two was well written and one of my favorites from the whole show.
You know, I'm starting to realize why we didn't work. We're the same person. Yeah, we're stubborn as hell. And we use people without giving a damn about who gets hurt in the process.
That is not who I am.
Oh, but it is. I see you, Emily. I see you.
Well, we're not friends, Daniel, so I'm not going to prop you up and tell you to go fight for Marco. You don't fight for anything.
Ouch.
Yeah. Well, I see you, too.
Hey, you really do look pretty tonight. And I think that means you're up to something. I just hope the guy isn't wearing his heart on his sleeve, because trust me, he'll use it.
David's half-hearted apology to Nolan and finally telling us about Malcolm Black was really bad. And I am also torn about the torture scenes. Again, it shows that Emily tends to go too far when her father is involved. Which is great, since in its core revenge is a morality tale. But did she really have to torture the poor guy in such a way? I mean, in other seasons she would have found a way to get the information without beating that guy over and over again. I get what they are trying to re-establish here. But we have seen and heard this conversations a million times before between Emily and Nolan, or Emily and Jack in season 3.
Torture? Emily? Really? How far were you gonna go?
You had no right.
I'm worried about you, Emily. Sorry, Ems. I'm not helping you, and neither will anyone else who knows what you're up to.
Far better, by the way, if you think about Father Paul and Jack's disapproval of Aiden. The only thing really interesting with this plot was Victoria's second attempt to get Emily killed.
I won't let anybody hurt David, and if it's money this Malcolm wants, there is another solution. I trust that you'll get that in the right hands and keep mine clean.
'Cause I cannot see how she does not take into account this outcome when she is giving away Emily's identity in the next episode. Now back to season 2. A strong and weak episode was Identity. Again, revenge is at its best when the Graysons are involved, and we have to deal with the question if Emily is going too far with Daniel. In fact, that was the one thing I really enjoyed in season 2. The love triangle between her, Daniel and Aiden. Jack was out of the picture for a while, so we could focus again on how faking a relationship with Daniel affects Emily. Even though I liked the foundation they built in season 1 with this romantic and fairy tale-like love story. It was fun how they destroyed it limb by limb, as Daniel said in season 3. After him siding with Conrad, the first knew there would be no future for him and Emily. Especially after she got back together with Aiden. I mean, she obviously is still sleeping with both men, so that must have been hard for Aiden as well. But somehow she is not that much sorry for Daniel.
And you know that Daniel is not my focus. Victoria is. You can't be jealous of somebody that I don't even care about.
I'm not jealous, Emily. I'm disgusted.
It seems to me as if she really sees him now as her operative. Just like a spy agent. Which was interesting to see. So I really enjoyed the 2 TV interviews in this episode that were just designed to hurt Victoria and humiliate her in public.
For the record, Mrs. Grayson, are you now denying that you abandoned a 6-month-old boy named Patrick to enroll in a European art school?
The story is true.
Nightline will be back.
I really should watch more television.
I always love when Emily has the upper hand over her. Now Totty bad part, her new target Falcon. First of all, I hated that we have this new target as some kind of accident and she fell through Emily's research.
There was a girl in the retreat photo. She never showed up in any of my research. I always just assumed she was an employee's daughter.
They really undermine Emily's revengender a bit too much in season 2. First with failing to get a grip with the initiative, and now overlooking this target who put David in prison with fake evidence.
2 on the nose?
The only thing that was remotely fun was the twist with that hacker being a woman, and I think the only target who was not male or white.
Waiting for someone.
Bird of prey, perhaps?
Falcon.
Smart move. Using Grayson to get my attention?
Which is also the problem, cause they went again for the most obvious cliche like they did with Emily's foster brother. They also managed to deprive us of the fun that Nolan was the one who took her down with this really not so great computer game challenge going on between the two. I get that they wanted to play along with his hacker backstory here, and they are very reluctant with showing us some action with Nolan. I think the only 2 times he fired a gun was in season 1 when they had this scene at the shooting range, and in the last season when he saved Emily from getting murdered by David. But they surely could have found a better way to make him beat the Falcon. They made it up a bit in the last scene with having Edith Lee arrested and Emily sending him the infamous photo. So they could both simultaneously cross out the target. But what I really enjoyed in that episode was the scenes at the end with the aftermath of Emily's and Daniel's TV interview. Jax and Daniel's reaction were not that surprising. But it was fulfilling to watch how this conflict was built up.
I owe you an explanation.
You don't owe me anything. I know what I saw, Emily. You're gonna be a Grayson, and frankly, I don't want anyone from that family around my son.
Naturally, Jack is deceived by Emily, who seems to be on the Grayson side. And who can blame Daniel for thinking he could finally get the girl? After Emily's statement during the interview, again just to tease Victoria, it is crystal clear what she has to do.
I want to spend the rest of my life with you, Emily. Next time I see you, if you decided to put that ring back on your finger, I'll have my answer.
And I love that little speech of Aiden at the end. He really shows what he is willing to sacrifice for Emily and her revengender. But on the other hand gets his reassurance that she only loves him and they will have a future together.
As much as I hate to say it, shouldn't you be with Daniel right about now? And then tell me this one thing. When this is all over, when they've paid for what they did to your father, then what?
I can be with you.
Then marry the son of a bitch. And take them down, once and for all.
I must admit I was thrilled when I first watched the scene. What can I say? I am still an Amy Lee shipper. But again, this episode felt very much like a slowing down. Speaking of slowing down and foster siblings. After that strong episode with Amanda's death. One of my favorites of this season and the entire show, no doubt. The episode after Retribution was bound to disappoint us. Though the funeral scene and Emily's speech was beautifully done, and though I hated to watch it the first time around, without knowing they would come around in the end, they managed pretty well to capture Jack's disappointment and anger after Formunder's death.
I am so sorry about everything.
I don't have time for this. I gotta bury my wife in an hour.
Though in retrospect they could have gone a bit more for authenticity here. Cause it must have been hard being a single dad when he just had no time to process that he was going to be a father. Since this pregnancy was not planned and Formunder came back 6 months pregnant. Anyway, this speech was some of the best things the authors of Revenge wrote. And I really like the twist how she is giving herself a funeral speech.
Death is a thief. It takes and keeps all that a person is. A person was. Amanda was special, but she never had it easy. a childhood torn from her, and a damning identity that was thrust upon her, which she bore with dignity. We will protect the husband and child that you leave behind, the sister that you were just getting to know, and we will greet every new day, approaching it with the same bravery and determination with which you lived your entire life.
Praising her mission a little bit. I wonder if Victoria got the threat she was slipping under here. Anyway, now totty things I did not like. For example, cutting to Aiden breaking into Jack's home to find Emily's laptop. Besides being that pointless cause, Emily is throwing the evidence away anyway.
What are you doing? The evidence in that laptop could send a Grayson's away for lifetimes.
The kind of punishment I came here for had nothing to do with prison. No more distractions.
How was that in any sense a good move? I mean, with this they literally throwing all her work and what they had built up in season 1 out of the window. For me it disturbed the rhythm of this emotional scene. The focus should lie on Emily, Jack, Charlotte and their mutual loss. But why just leave it with the funeral? I mean, we heard Aiden is on it and he brings the laptop to Emily. So what was this scene for? You see the difference when Emily is there touching Formunder's wedding dress. This subtle little scene was far better than Aiden breaking in to steal some meaningless laptop. Another thing that was pointless was bringing Amanda's stepbrother in. They really try over and over again to trick us into believing Emily was in danger of getting caught.
Is he, Amanda? It's a nice tattoo. Looking pretty good for a dead girl.
Yet the ones who really have the opportunity to spill her secret just do not do it. Mason, Eli and Fomander. They all had on some point the opportunity to ruin Emily's mission and get her killed. But they never did. For Fomander it is an obvious choice since she would have endangered herself, too, and opened up a lot more trouble for herself with Jack. Even more after Carl was born. Yet Mason has no real reason to keep her secret. Especially since he is tempted that much by Victoria. He is an opportunist and I cannot see why he holds still that long. I assume he really has a soft spot for Amanda. And with Eli we have the same problem. He comes out of nowhere and surely has not strong ties to Amanda anymore. The only thing that is keeping him from telling is his bad conscience. Which is very much thin given he has a criminal record and no attachments at all.
You're not worried that I'm gonna mess things up, are you? I mean, you do remember who you're talking to, right? I want to get them back for you.
Why?
Because I once made you a promise to always look after you. Like, I'm doing this with or without you.
Speaking of figures from the past, another pointless quest we get in season 4 was Ben's backstory with his wife April. By the way, I really hatted this some kind of running gag about his work undercover.
When I worked undercover...
Really, with the undercover thing again?
You know, examine your subconscious.
Is that story not why you came to me?
Let's pretend that it is.
So I was undercover for 6 months.
And you've been Emily for...
11 years.
Right. So a little different.
Even more pathetic that they used for a whole episode and his character backstory. I mean, how bold and simplistic is this character? The only good thing they made with this episode is to cut out the additional baggage with April and Ben having a child. But let's start with the good stuff in the episode Retaliation. Which was getting finally rid of the side plot with that grifter Natalie Waters and Louise killing her brother. Cause these two side plots were much more fun than the main plot with Emily and Ben. Though the plot around Louise was getting more and more crazy from episode to episode, one was really rooting for her and the story with her stepbrother. You must admit this end was surprising. Victoria and David working together was a fun twist, yet totally out of character for both. And again they rub it in how trusting and stupid David is regarding his really bad taste in women. I will never understand why they made these character changes with him. He looks even more dumb than Daniel in season 1 when Emily was whipping him. But as I said in my episode talks, I think they could have made it clearer here that Victoria is starting to resume her war with Emily again. It was kind of hard to tell with her going back and forth with this in her conversations with Margot. Was this all a ruse for Margot so she thinks it was her own decision to join a vendetta against Emily? Was it a ruse for the audience as well? Anyway, I believe instead of putting Natalie as a new obstacle in front of Victoria in this pathetic love triangle no one was invested in or even believed to be true. Since David is the only one still in love with Victoria. Yeah, just as sad as Daniel dying for his soulmate Emily. I think if Victoria would have concentrated on Emily in this war instead of these side battles like she promised us in the very first episode,
But instead, you chose revenge. Now it's my turn.
This season could have been maybe the second if not even the best season of revenge. I mean all those conflicts they left out here. With retaliating against her former lover and David's loyalty issues because she is still in love with that woman but also has to defend his daughter. That would have even made the move letting him kill Victoria more meaning and powerful. Yet we are stuck with this. No offense to Corinne Vanass. But it is like it is. So totally bad stuff, which was quite a lot here. Even many fans of revenge hate Margot and her revengender in this season. And I must admit her attempts to take down Emily, or at least hurt her allies I guess, was just painful to watch. Especially in this episode. I mean how shady this henchman or whatever this actor should display for her looks. And what is all the fuss about Emily's birth certificate? If she could forge that easily one, why not simply forge one or use the real one of Fomander? Jack could surely help out here since Fomander gave birth to his child and they married 2 seasons ago. There must be some record. Or Nolan's hacking skills could come in handy here. Problem solved in 5 minutes. Easy as pie. No, they make up this stupid field trip. And what is even worse, they fall back into old role models here. I get Ben and Jack are police officers, so they get to save people on a regularly basis. But it is not David who steals Emily's thunder. It is these 2 men who both save Emily and get the action. While like a damsel in distress, Emily is watching from a side. The next one was more fun because we finally get Toki stuff all Gemily shippers have been waiting for. Even the promo of Bait concentrates on this.
You have to know, it's always been you. Revenge.
Jack is finally ready to confess his feelings to Emily again and is rejected again. Like I said with that scene between Emily and Ben in my bad rankings video, this scene is like a car crash. But this time in a good way. 'Cause it really hurts seeing Emily being so stupid again and maybe making the biggest mistake of her life. I mean, it is like Nolan later says.
How many times did you think you could push him away before he finally broke?
What was I supposed to do, Nolan? You know how much he suffered because of me.
And still, he chose you. He loves you, Ems. He had the guts to open his heart.
She could really have lost Jack forever with this. As much as I wished she had said yes, I think their relationship, or better, Emily needed this. 'Cause she still is not ready to face her feelings for Jack, and only the fear of losing him forever gives her that extra kick to go for it and give it a try with Jack finally. Okay, Nolan had a little bit I do with it. But I wonder if going to LA was just a smart move of Jack to provoke Emily to make a step forward. I mean, he literally did everything he could in this season. He saved her life twice. Helped her with Charlotte and her revengender like in season 3. Tried to keep her out of jail, which was really not that easy task this season.
If Victoria turns up hurt, or worse, I will arrest you.
Got his life on track and stayed single besides that fatal little fling with Kate Black. And finally humiliated himself again by confessing his true feelings to a woman who rejected him twice.
You have to know that there's someone out there who's a better fit for you. Jack. I'm doing this now because I can't watch you be with anyone else. I have one certainty in my life, Emily. And that is how I feel about you. It's always been you. From the moment Sammy ran up to you that day.
I can't, Jack. I'm sorry.
But I said fun. So now Totty fun part with Louise and Nolan. This episode was the one who made me root for them as a pair. Even though their marriage is fake. I mean, that tells a lot about the writers for this storyline and the acting skills of Gabriel Mann and Elena Satine. Giving her the opportunity to be part of Emily's revenge team and being open to her was just such a great move. And I still love this hilarious moment here. Isn't she just cute?
Emily and I...
You're sleeping together?
No. Emily and I... we're sort of like superheroes.
Oh. You're serious?
Only in the sense that we do, well, good things for people who deserve it, and bad things to those who don't.
And what are you on today? A mission of mercy or malice?
How does merciful malice suit you?
Like La Perla.
If you think about it, if they had involved her more, Victoria did not have the chance to turn Louise against Nolan and Emily. They just should have told her the whole story and how wicked and dangerous this woman is. Given how good Victoria is in manipulating people, Nolan should have been the first to think about warning his wife. I mean, he wanted to protect her with this marriage and in some kind really failed her. However, the revenge mission itself was not that cool. They tried to much top fancy here, and it turned out very much ridiculous how Nolan and Emily pulled this Mission Impossible stuff up. Now we are going to revisit Emily and Daniel in season 3. As much as I loved the wedding preparations and the stuff after Emily had been shot, some things in these episodes did not feel right. Let's start with Hatred, the episode after Emily got out of hospital and got to know of all the consequences Daniel's attempt to kill her had. The prologue was not that bad, though it could have been a little less poignant.
When I was a child, my father woke me every morning with the same phrase: life is a great sunrise. But after my father was taken from me, the morning sun burned like fire. That's when I learned what hatred was, and that it would greet me each day to come.
I mean, obviously all characters in Revenge have reasons to hate each other. First of all, Emily, because Daniel stole her happy future with Aiden from here.
Do you know what orphans dream of? When they stop wishing for their parents to return. We think about filling the emptiness with families of our own. Thanks to Daniel, that hope is gone for me.
Now she decides to make his life hell somehow, I guess, and here is the big problem with those blackouts in the episodes before she resumes her revenge agenda. On the one hand, they make us believe Emily has this kind of mental breakdown and sends her hate in the wrong direction. On the other hand, she has really good reasons for hating Daniel and Victoria. I mean, she plays this out like the episode with Lydia in season 1. Keeping Emily hostage until they figure out what to do with her. I mean, is she and Daniel really on board with killing her if that was the only way to protect her son? And Daniel is the one who makes her life at Grayson Manor miserable in the first place. He is sleeping with his girlfriend while Emily is recovering from her gunshot wounds. Wounds he is responsible for. By the way, it was despicable that he lied about it in front of Sarah to keep her on his side.
Danny, did you?
Sure? No.
That girl would have deserved the truth. Especially after becoming a target for Emily's rage. On top of all that, she has to face not only that her mission failed, but that her future with Aiden is lost.
I found out I can't have children. I can't give you a family.
I get that having children of her own must have been a huge part of how she envisioned her life with Aiden when this was all over. Even though Aiden seems not the man who is eager to become a parent himself.
Just so you know, I never needed any of those things. I just needed you.
I mean, both come from a family tragic that left the Clarke and the Matthews family very much in shambles. But Victoria obviously knew in the episode before Endurance how to hit Emily with this.
What is it? Because of the location of the bullet wounds, I'm afraid you'll never be able to conceive, Emily. Fate can be so cruel.
Long story short, I understand her decision to stay in the Hamptons and get a little bit of peace by Retaliation. It is the same choice Margot makes in season 4. And it totally fits Emily's character. I mean, if Aiden really thought that after everything the Graysons did to her she would just drop her vendetta and live happily ever after with him, he still does not understand this woman and how her mind works. He did the same mistake in season 2 after Takeda's death.
To save you, too, from this empty life of vengeance, it's time. Certainly not for me.
So the breakup here was no big surprise for me.
You're ending this with me. You're gonna let them take this away from you too, Emily. Think about what you're saying.
I have.
But back to Daniel. What really worked for me in these 2 episodes was the War of Roses between Emily and Daniel. You can really see how much fun Emily Van Camp and Joshua Bowman have in these scenes. By the way, as you might know, they have been a pair during shooting and married after the show was over on the exact same date as the wedding episode of Emily and Daniel was aired on television. A bit creepy but also cute. Anyway, those are my favorite scenes with Emily and Daniel besides that fairy tale stuff of the wedding and season 1, of course. Even though we have this over the top plot twists and side plots, their marriage going down was really raw and true stuff. Like the ones they showed us with Victoria and Conrad in season 2.
You mean our marriage?
This isn't a marriage, and I'm not sure it ever was. I told you I was gonna fight for us.
Are you insane? There will never be an us. Thanks to you, I'm dead inside.
So am I. We did this to each other, Daniel. You took from me, so I took from you.
Sterilizing you was my gift to the universe.
In fact, I really like the mirroring they did in season 3. Cause they allude a lot in Daniel's conversations with Conrad and Victoria how much he and Emily may go down the same way. Conrad even warned him in season 1. So this one was safe for the good side.
There has to be a part of you that still remembers how you felt when you first met her.
That's how I feel about Emily.
And yeah, I'm sure I felt about her then the same way you think you feel about Emily now.
Except I'd never treat Emily the way you're treating Mom.
No, you say that, but you'll be at each other's throat in the end. You'll see. You'll cheat on her, she'll cheat on you, and then one day you'll find out she's been keeping a secret so big, it'll destroy your whole family.
Now to the bad, which was all the stuff with Nico and Aiden and Patrick. Nico's story revenging her father's death was just so pointless. Again they go for an obvious mirror of Emily's Cora story. Did they not learn anything from Padma's story and how they failed in the previous season? Did they rewatched season 2 and uncovered what I told you before, that Takeda's death had not that much impact like it should have been? And they came up with the idea bringing his family in? I mean, I have a way cooler and even more crazy idea which would have also fit the whole structure of plot twists Revenge is making in season 2 and 3. Why not bring Takeda back from the dead? Kidding. That would have been terrible. Even for soapy standards. And after season 2 he was definitely no fan favorite. Yet they could have brought his fiancée in. We saw her on a picture, so she was already kind of established instead of Nico. A daughter we never heard of. I mean, what is with his wife? Or was this fiancée her mother? Would have made sense since he turned his life around and started this vendetta for her. Anyway, would not have been that far-fetched since she was not supposed to be on the plane at all. Remember, there could have been some kind of confusion since the bodies they rescued must have looked bad and DNA testing was that long around in the 90s. So maybe she survived with some kind of memory loss. Here comes the soapy cliches in handy. Or she used that opportunity to escape a controlling husband like Takeda. I mean, he looks like the type. Instead of Nico, she could have come back and shed some light on Takeda. And we would not have had to endure this ridiculous relationship between her and Aiden and this really bizarre fighting scene and her pathetic plan to kill Aiden in front of Emily because she is jealous of the attention she stole as Takeda's student from her. What? Come on, how pathetic can a female character with daddy issues be written? Another bad side plot here was the relationship between Nolan and Patrick, who finally was coming to an end. I mean, the idea was intriguing, this gay version of Romeo and Juliet. And all those loyalty issues for Nolan and Emily. But since she was not at the top of her games with her blackouts, I guess this plotline just vanished. And I talked about the subplot with his origin, which is still something I do not buy. But let's move on to another annoying yet surprising satisfying sideplot, Daniel's affair with Sarah and Emily's new target, Busy Preston. As I said, I like that they are going back to the soapy character in Revenge. After all, the show is at its best when it deals with wealthy people in fabulous clothes who may or not each other. It cannot ever be a life and death situation. So Busy and Sarah gave us some relief in the episodes Resurgence and Secrecy after all that sad stuff with Father Paul. And I must admit, seeing Daniel and Sarah together, they make a cute couple. Not that she would be the one. But I get what he sees in her. 'Cause she is the complete opposite of Emily, who becomes more and more like his mother. Sarah is naive and humble, while Emily knows her worth and tries to manipulate everyone around her. And by season 3 she is pretty good with it. She even begins to manipulate Conrad and Victoria. I mean, this stunt with his fake Huntington's disease was quite a stunt.
I'm sure you'll find a way to make amends with yours in these final months together.
Months? I was hoping for years.
Of course. We all are, Conrad.
And Victoria sometimes even does not recognize she is played by her. But when I saw this innocent almost kiss, I really thought the two would make a lovely couple in a parallel universe. And you must admit, Joshua Bowman has far more chemistry with Annabelle Stevenson than with Emily Van Camp. I guess since the two were together in real life, they were just reluctant to slip something from their real relationship in here. Anyway, in these 2 episodes she was some kind of cute, and I hate that they changed her character into this spoiled young woman who behaves like the worst social climber. This scene with Emily at the pool was just so rude.
Right now, your earthiness is what's catching his eye, but you don't fit in here. I'm actually proud of that.
Because I'm trash? Is that what you're saying? Excuse me? A glass of Cristal, please.
Right away.
I guess they wanted to show off again how the Hamptons and the Graysons spoil good people.
Hey, how about one of those Louis Vuitton trunks?
Oh, it's Italy. I'm going Gucci, baby.
But I just felt sorry for her and Emily because Daniel only used Sarah and her presence at Grayson Manor to hurt Emily.
Your husband's kind of a hole.
He even has Sarah sleeping over. He's trying to chase me away.
But what I really enjoyed in these TVShow episodes Resurgence and Secrecy was Emily's new target. Busy Preston is something like the female version of Mason Treadwell. This PR lady was just so annoying. And again I loved that Nolan gets his second solo takedown. Even more that he has history with Busy.
Well, you should be happy that he's not here. He would also be scrutinized by the publicist Conrad hired, which is why PR maven Busy Preston is becoming a problem that I don't have time for. What, you know her?
And loathe her. Back in the day, I was dating this guy. I met his sister, up-and-coming pop star, Sage, and she was more casual, more fun, and as it turned out, married. The press got a hold of our one-hit wonder, and Busy squashed it, like claiming I was gay. Busy's the one who should be sorry.
This little story about his outing could only have been better if they would have showed us a little flashback. The best was of course Emily's ruse with her first husband. Victoria played right into her cards and the bridal party scene was just perfect.
He's very handsome and extremely wealthy. Surely you haven't forgotten that. After all, he was your husband.
What? This is a joke, right?
It's not what you think. It was a marriage of convenience. I did it to help Rohan.
Oh, with what?
True love? I was being in danger of deportation and I had just fallen for someone.
I helped Rohan obtain his green card so that he could stay with his partner, Benny. Hi.
To Emily, who helped me find love. How happy I am that she has found hers.
Her cream white golden dress and the golden shoes looked gorgeous, as if Emily was around the steal Victoria's crown. The only thing I dislike was her hair, which looked like a bird nesting in it. Now totty bad stuff, which was Charlotte trying to hook Daniel and Sarah up.
Because I care about Daniel too much to see him marry the wrong woman. I'm sure Daniel still has feelings for Sarah and she still has feelings for him. They just need help remembering that.
So you think that Sarah could be the one who would put a stop to this wedding?
Okay, she apologizes later to Sarah and sees that she was wrong. But if she would not have intervened, Daniel would have been fine and Emily would have not had to take these drastic measures to keep him by her side. And even worse, she kept Sarah's hopes up of getting back together with Daniel even though she knew Daniel was in love with Emily and waited a long time to finally marry her. Still, I cannot watch the two scenes Emily lying to Daniel without feeling sorry for him. Because it is like she admits in season 4. She threw a grenade into his life and did not give a damn about who was hurt in the process. When she opens up to him about her father, I believe her cause in a way she is telling the truth, but faking a pregnancy just to see her plan through was really dark even for her. You do not lie about such a thing, and it tells us a lot about Emily's desperation. Why is he not dropping her plan? I mean, it looks as if the universe is giving her a sign to call it a day and find another way to take down the Graysons. I mean, how often she had to adapt her plans to other circumstances in season 1 and 2. I guess Jack's deadline put that extra pressure on her so she could not see clearly.
Finish this by the end of the summer, then leave for good.
And of course both Nolan and Aidan were eager for her to finish this project.
I'm kind of tired of the way that this stuff is constantly screwing up our lives. I just for this to end.
Now we are getting back to season 2 40 top 5. And this includes a wedding, Amanda's foster family, the worst finale of the show and season opener that refreshed the show. Let's start with one of the better episodes from season 2 titled Illumination. Funny that the good things in this episode are also the things I hated about the episodes with Amanda's foster family. I get that the writers felt the need to fill the gap Formunder's death created. But instead of really caring for this new character, and I do not know, installing him as Emily's new old ally, they just brought a new target in, which was fun no doubt.
You act like you don't remember what that bitch did to us.
I remember just fine.
But as I said in my episode talk, I really think Eli James had more potential as a character. Especially if you think that after Ashley Madueke left the show we did have a solely white cast. Not to play the race card here, but if one of Emily's allies was not white, that would have bring in some diversity. Anyway, I really hated the backstory with that foster home from hell.
No parent will ever want you.
The flashbacks looked like a totally different show. If they were acting out some kind of grim fairy tale. And the plot around the Amanda Clarke Foundation.
Quite the turnout. I can only imagine what Amanda would say if she were here.
I can think of a few things.
This whole foundation's a front. You are unbelievable. They're hiding their money in this foundation in case there's an investigation and their assets are frozen.
Are you kidding me?
No.
I guess I should cancel my check.
I guess it served its purpose, making us hate the Graysons even more for their despicable deeds. Now to the parts one love, which was obviously the press conference Eli crashed.
From 1996 to 1999, I lived at Miss Hayward's house. Those were the darkest days of my life. Under the guise of discipline, Miss Hayward ruled her house with fear and intimidation, withholding food and water from us, keeping us locked in a metal coal bin for hours or even days at a time. You don't have to take my word for it. Take theirs.
I really love the spirit of this guy and was really disappointed when he left the show so soon. I mean, he was the only one who was smart enough to see right through Emily's facade, and he kept her secret even though he could have taken advantage of her. It was a bit odd that he felt the need to help her and make up for how he wronged her when they were young. I mean, who cares about what they had done as kids?
Tell everyone how you set the fire at my house, and let Amanda Clarke take the blame, for which she did 5 years in juvenile detention.
Okay, it was a significant moment, and maybe Amanda's life would have not get that worse if she had to spend time in UV. But he was a young kid and did not know better. Surely he was afraid of what would happen to him. So it is plausible that he wants to help Emily no matter what. But it shows some kind of code and made Eli look honorable despite his criminal record. I mean, ripping of the rich could also be a Robin Hood thing if you do it not solely for your own benefit like he did. So I guess there was some kind of foundation here to work with. He has some kind of justice feeling. And he definitely was committed. So why not make him stay at least till the end of the season? I know Aiden and Nolan are Emily's main allies in season 2. But she also worked with Fomander and later with Jack in season 3. So there was potential for a new member of T Revenge Club. Before we get to my top 3 of not so bad episodes, we have one episode from season 4 left, the first episode called Renaissance. A bit odd but fitting for how they turned the show around after David Clarke's return. Many felt betrayed by this plot twist, but if you knew the original story it was not that much surprising. Cause the whole premise of the Count of Monte Cristo ist hat the Edmond Dantes, who was believed to have died in prison, comes back and takes revenge in disguise of his new identity. Yes, Emily was the Countess for 3 seasons, but she never was believed to have died. Therefore the identity swap with Fomander. And after they brought Victoria and Lydia back from the dead in the previous seasons, I think the way for David's return was already paved. So as messy as season 4 was sometimes, I enjoyed the first episode. They got many things right here. But let's start with the not so good parts. Which was Emily's party. I mean, who had the idea to make a christening of a boat without the sea? And why is Emily taking revenge for a random girl she does not even know? I get what they are trying to tell us here, which was a bit too stressed out for my taste. And they had to deal with the loss of Aiden. On paper this might have looked good, but I just do not get it. Even for Emily this coping strategy is strange.
It worked.
Oh, wait, what worked? Manipulating Retaliation for a girl that did not even ask for it.
You wouldn't understand. She will.
For so long I couldn't feel anything but hatred for that man out there. I get sick of hating. It is a useless, crippling emotion.
At least now he'll be charged.
Even if they find him guilty, what's it all for? Nothing can bring back the people we love. Nothing.
What did she do as research for this takedown? Go through police announcements and local news websites. How does anyone stumble about this? Another thing that bothered me in the first couple of episodes was the new style. Emily's furniture and how she redesigned Grayson Manor with Nolan's help no doubt was not that bad. But the clothes and all this pastel colors. This all had a bit too much 80s and Miami Vice vibe. And since Emily is tat pale like me and her light blonde hair makes not a good contrast, these light colors did not look well on her. She looked a bit sick in these episodes. And I hate the fact that they abandoned both the flash forward and the prologues with Emily's voiceover. That was something that got me intrigued right from the start.
Like I said, this is not a story about forgiveness.
I get that they wanted a restart with season 4, but since it was the last season this felt a bit too much. The idea with Victoria speaking the prologue caused she and Emily switched positions, and it is now Victoria who takes revenge on Emily was not that bad. So why did they not use it for all episodes?
In my lifetime, I've come to understand that there are 3 ways for a person to disappear. The first is to die, the second is to lie, and the last is to be reborn. It was after my former husband's death 6 months ago that my transformation began. I made my peace with those who have wronged me and with those who I've wronged. No one more so than Emily thorn.
Another not so great thing was Daniel's bad life without the Grayson money. Okay, he had to sell his car and was humiliated because he could not pay his bill for the hotel he was staying in. But besides that, it looked pretty well for him. I mean, he did not sleep under a bridge with dirty clothes. He still wears expensive business clothes and was in good shape. So yeah, Daniel Grayson's life must have been pretty hard after his father's death. Another annoying thing they introduced during Emily's party was Ben's crush on her. Emily is the party host and wears a pretty designer dress, I admit. But not a very revealing or sexy one. So how is Ben's first commentary when he sees her this?
Something going on?
No, it's complicated.
Yeah, well, uncomplicated. She's hot.
And why is Jack that reluctant with her? Is it really because he wants to give her time process Aiden's loss? Sure, he knows firsthand how much it hurts losing your soulmate. In season 2 he had been through all this with Amanda. And also had to take care of a newborn. But I really think he should have made it clearer to Ben that he was interested in Emily. I am sure Ben would have understood and would have spared us this very annoying love story, if you even want to call it that, between him and Emily. And I hate how they tease us right away with these looks of Jack. He clearly still loves her. And for a change has at the moment no reason to hate Emily. So why is he making no move into her direction? At the time both are single and it seems as if her revengey days are over. Perfect timing for a restart, don't you think? By the way, this could have been a fun subplot, how Emily is trying to have a normal relationship and be a stepmother for baby Carl. In her 2 scenes from season 3 and later in this season, she looks like a natural. And I am sure Carl could have offered some comfort for that devastating revelation from the last season that Emily cannot get pregnant. So let's move to the good parts, which was setting the tone for Victoria's revengender. The end of the episode was just great with this face-off between Emily and Victoria, who finally calls her Amanda.
Am I right, Amanda?
What do you want?
Arriving here tonight, I think I know how you must have felt when you first returned to the Hamptons. So much hatred in your heart for me and what you thought I'd done.
Which you did.
If you'd only come clean then. But instead you chose revenge. Now it's my turn.
And welcome back.
And I really thought, naive as I was, that they would go full in with her revenge plan. I guess if they had shortened this last season like they did with the Vampire Diaries, they might have go for it. But so we did not get much of her revenge until the end of the season. You can argue that her focus shifted after David was back. But no, the contrary, Victoria sent David to kill his own daughter and did everything to keep the two apart. Now to my top 3, which are surprisingly all from season 2. The Grayson wedding and Emily's ruse for Mason might have getting this one called Illusion a place among the good episodes. But having Helen Crawley in it and this just bold move getting Conrad arrested at his wedding was just too bad. I mean, what was Emily hoping to accomplish here? But starting with the good stuff, which was the wedding obviously and everybody dressing up for the occasion. And Emily's elegant ruse for Mason. The whole structure of the episode with the resolution at the end really brings back season 1 vibes. And made me miss the good writing of the first season. Even though it was a cheap trick and Mason was not even close in uncover the truth behind Emily Thorne, I still like the threat they put up here. In fact, neither Emily nor the audience knows what Mason will do with this knowledge. It was a bit risky for her to reveal herself in that episode after this. I guess she might had in mind to make Mason switch teams. She tried it before in season 1. And failed, of course, since Victoria freaked Mason, who is the most cowardly character in the whole show, out. I guess she counts on his vanity and maybe saw that he had a good heart and wanted to make it right. If she gave him the opportunity to do it easily and have some benefits of it. And of course that scene with Aiden making his move to get her back.
I've changed, okay? I'm leaving, but I'm not giving up on you. I'm just gonna have to trust that you won't give up on me.
Yet I did not enjoy the dancing part of her and Daniel either.
Here's a crazy thought. You want to dance? So this was almost us, huh?
Almost.
Ever think about it? What it might have been like if we hung in there?
It's never too late to change course.
You mean that?
In season 2 their chemistry is really off. Maybe because their relationship in real life was getting more serious. I do not know. Another thing, this red herring of Ashley was really unnecessary. If they did not want to pursue this further, why did Aiden mention it? Was there another backstory of Ashley planned in that flashback episode and they abandoned it? As I said in my episode talked, they could have made a great storyline out of this if they wanted to. 'Cause Emily's and Ashley's friendship lies a bit in the dark. She surely got close to her for her entree into the Hamptons and to get close to Grayson's as quick as possible. And for most of the time in season 1, Ashley was her source of information.
What events does she have coming up?
This week, the Open Arms Charity Gala.
Me too.
I'm gonna see you at Victoria's luncheon today, right?
Of course.
Speaking of Ashley, the finale called Truth was also better than the rest of this season because we finally got the big initiative conspiracy falling into the background. Now they concentrated again on Conrad as the big bad, which was probably the best choice for season 3. And Ashley being in the middle of it helping Jack made me hope she would stick around and change teams for good. But you all know how this went down. So the season 2 finale might be the worst finale comparing it to season 1, 3 and 4, but it is far better than the rest of season 2. Plus we finally get rid of the initiative plot. Let's dive right into the good parts. The first cliffhanger with that explosion and Jack's maybe death was great, and I am still thankful that they did not choose it as the season's cliffhanger. Even better that they screened both episodes together. Anyway, Conrad's ruse here with the David Clarke supporters message and using the bombing as an advert for his campaign was genius. God, I did not hate this man as much as in these 2 episodes. He is using every little detail of the initiative's plan to his advantage.
I'm assuming you heard about his brother's passing.
Oh, yeah. It's terrible news. You know, I've just finished modifying my speech to include a moment of silence for the boy. I doubt there'll be a dry eye in the house.
You never miss a trick, do you?
You don't get to where we are by ignoring opportunity.
He even tries to get rid of Jack by luring him into the building that he knew was about to explode. And framing Ashley for it to get rid of her, too. Of course I enjoyed Emily's confession to Jack, which was the worst cliffhanger cause we had to wait 1 year for his reaction.
Deep down inside, you've always known the truth. I'm Amanda Clarke.
Which was, by the way, not that great and fulfilling either.
Well, I think about all the opportunities you had to tell me. That night under the fireworks, the night Sammy died.
1 and 2.
But you didn't. But I didn't know how I felt about you till this moment. And I'm sorry. I just don't feel anything. I'll keep your secret. But it's just me and Carl now. Leave us alone.
One of my favorite scenes between Emily and Victoria of this season also took place in this episode. I really love that quote from Victoria and use it very often in my music videos. It's one of the classics who really sums up what she does to Emily in season 3.
You and I have more in common than either one of us cares to admit. Ferocity, an embedded determination to get whatever we want no matter what the cost. Do not forget that I have been at this much longer than you. And if you continue, I promise you that you will not only fail, but you will suffer. And have no doubt, I will show no mercy.
'Cause when she finally knew her real identity, she definitely goes not soft on her. Even though it made the whole plot of season 2 obsolete, I loved Conrad's confession and getting rid of the initiative that easily.
There is no initiative, my dear. There never was. Simply a consortium of savvy business persons who perfected the art of profiting off other people's fear.
That's despicable even for you.
See that they could have done after 5 episodes or halfway through the season. Would have really improved the pace here. Which brings us to the bad parts. Really annoying was the involvement of the Falcon and that Nolan and Aiden set the plan in motion. I mean, how could the initiative know this would work? Did they have a plan B if it did not? Though it was cool using a blackout as cover-up for their operation, this whole plan seemed a bit lame for that powerful terrorist organization. What did Takeda say about them?
They're planning a second strike.
What are they gonna do?
What they always do. Create fear, chaos, profit.
I see not that much terror and chaos here. And all this running around of Emily and Nolan trying to find Jack. I assume it should make the last minutes of the finale intense. But these intercuts with Conrad's speech kind of worked against it. And the slow-mo was a bit too much for my part. But what they did right and shows again what a brilliant actress Emily Van Camp is was her close-up. She really carries the scene and Nick Wexler just has to react to her acting. And the flashback was perfect. I know all the Gemily haters just cannot stand these childhood memories. But I can think of no better way than showing us what is going on in Jack's mind right now. 'Cause first he has to process it and then he surely was happy about the fact that he found his love back. I assume the hate and anger about her lie kicked in later. By the way, I hate that they robbed us of the moment after this confession in season 3. I mean, no flashback, no flash forward for this.
Just going off birthday month. Wow. Wait, you didn't tell him I was president of the Inner Circle, did you?
I haven't seen him. After Declan's funeral, he packed up the stowaway and left with Carl.
Guess that's for the best.
Did they just leave the scene without exchanging another word? Did Emily run away after this bomb she dropped, or did Jack because he was so overwhelmed? Yes, the cliffhanger was maybe perfect, but they should have given us the courtesy to jump right in for the season's beginning. I mean, how hard could it have been to write this dialogue? They had written so many fights fought him in season 3. Anyway, this were my not so bad episodes. The next video will be all just for the fans with all of my favorite stuff of revenge.